Stoic-Apex. Masculine attachment and pair bonding. The quality of a man's attachment shapes the quality of his love, leadership, and the bond he creates. Many men think attraction is chemistry or sexual polarity. That is incomplete. A relationship is also being shaped by attachment patterns, nervous system regulation, emotional availability, and the degree to which two people can create a bond that feels both safe and alive. Masculine attachment and pair bonding is about that deeper layer. It is about masculine attachment. Not attachment as weakness, dependency, or sentiment, but attachment as the ability to bond without collapsing, to love without losing structure, to stay emotionally available without becoming needy, and to create pair bonding without surrendering the masculine frame. In Neurobiological Security, Stan Tatkin teaches, protect the safety and security of the relationship at all costs. Stoic-Apex translation: if the bond does not feel protected, attachment becomes strained, the nervous system becomes defensive, and love becomes harder to inhabit cleanly. That is why pair bonding matters. The man who does not understand attachment often confuses distance with strength, anxiety with love, and emotional shutdown with masculine control. He may still want connection, but he keeps injuring the very thing he wants, because he has not learned how secure functioning actually works. In Stoic discipline, Epictetus wrote, "Some things are in our control and others not." Stoic-Apex translation: you cannot force a bond through pressure, but you can govern your own regulation, honesty, steadiness, responsiveness, and leadership within the relationship. That is the masculine frame within masculine attachment and pair bonding. You do not build pair bonding through panic. You do not build security through control. You do not build attraction through emotional disappearance. You do not build trust through punishment. You build it through self-command, nervous system mastery, relational mutuality, and grounded masculine presence. Building yourself will show how Stoic-Apex attachment shapes desire, how secure men love differently, and how a man can become more emotionally safe without becoming soft, shapeless, or approval-driven. In Building with Stoic-Apex, stay through the full episode and comment with the attachment pattern that damages your relationship most. Anxious pressure, emotional withdrawal, punishment, inconsistency, or lack of repair. Attachment is already running the relationship. Whether people name it or not, attachment is already active in the relationship. It is active in how you handle distance. How do you react to silence? How do you approach conflict? How do you repair? How do you ask for reassurance? How you respond when your partner is hurt, cold, overwhelmed, or pulling back. Many men think they are simply reacting to the moment. Often, they are reacting from an attachment pattern they do not yet understand. That pattern may sound like, I need reassurance now. I need space now. I feel trapped. I feel abandoned. I need to fix this immediately. I do not want to talk about this. I want closeness, but I do not trust it. I want love, but I do not want to depend on anyone. This is why masculine attachment must be studied, not assumed. A man may have strong sexual energy and still be relationally unstable. He may look confident in public and still become anxious in intimacy. He may speak about loyalty, but still shuts down when emotional demands arise. Attachment reveals what happens when love becomes vulnerable. And vulnerability is where many men discover that they are far less regulated than they imagined. The issue is not that they want a connection. The issue is that they do not yet know how to carry a connection without distorting it. That is why pair bonding is not only romance. It is structured. It is a regulation. It is repeated emotional behavior. It is the pattern of how two nervous systems learn whether closeness is safe. If a man wants to become stronger in love, he has to stop treating attachment as a feminine topic and start seeing it as masculine training. Because the way you bond reveals the way you lead. Secure men do not chase and withdraw. Two of the most common distortions in relationships are anxious pursuit and avoidant retreat. One chases. One disappears. One floods the bond with pressure. One starves the bond of presence. Neither is secure. The anxious man wants relief now. He seeks clarity, reassurance, and emotional connection because uncertainty feels unbearable. The avoidant man wants space now. He shuts down, distances, withholds, or goes cold because emotional intensity feels intrusive or destabilizing. Both patterns damage the bond, just in opposite ways. This is where many men get confused. They think the avoidant pattern looks stronger because it appears more stoic, more detached, less emotionally needy. But emotional distance is not the same as self-command. A man who disappears every time the relationship becomes difficult is not leading the bond. He is escaping the bond. Likewise, a man who chases every time discomfort appears is not strengthening the bond. He is pressuring the bond. Secure functioning is different. A secure man can stay present without becoming hungry. He can ask directly without demanding. He can take space without becoming punishing. He can regulate without withdrawing from responsibility. He can remain emotionally available without collapsing into emotional dependence. That is a very different masculine standard. It requires both strength and softness, both clarity and patience, both attachment and self-command. The secure man is not trying to force the relationship to calm him down, nor is he abandoning the relationship to calm himself down alone. He remains in responsible contact with the bond while still governing his own state. That is maturity. Pair bonding requires safety, not just desire. Desire may start a relationship, but safety helps keep the bond inhabitable. This is one of the major truths men often miss. Attraction can create momentum, but pair bonding is strengthened by trust, consistency, responsiveness, and the felt sense that the relationship is not a place of chronic threat. If the relationship keeps feeling unstable, emotionally punishing, or biologically expensive, bonding weakens even if attraction still exists. That is why a man can be wanted but not deeply trusted. Desired but not safely leaned on. Loved but not securely bonded with. Those are not the same thing. In spiritual humility, Reinhold Niebuhr's Serenity Prayer says, "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." Stoic-Apex translation. Secure bonding requires a man to stop trying to control everything and instead govern what is actually his to carry. That means his tone, his honesty, his steadiness, his responsiveness, his integrity, his repair, his boundaries, and his nervous system. Safety does not mean passivity. It does not mean over-accommodation. It does not mean loss of masculine shape. It means the woman does not have to keep bracing against unnecessary emotional volatility, unclear loyalty, or unresolved threats inside the bond. The more a relationship feels safe, the more love has room to deepen. And when that safety is combined with masculine structure, desire and bonding become much easier to sustain together. That is the aim of pair bonding. Not just being together, but becoming safe enough to matter deeply to each other without turning the bond into a place of chronic damage. So far, masculine attachment and pair bonding has established three foundations. First, attachment is already running the relationship. Second, secure men do not chase and withdraw. Third, pair bonding requires safety, not just desire. Your nervous system is part of the relationship. A relationship is never only words, logic, and intentions. It is also breath, tone, timing, tension, posture, pace, facial expression, and the invisible emotional signal each person brings into the room. That means your nervous system is not separate from the relationship. It is part of it. If a man is constantly dysregulated, flooded, sharp, shut down, or emotionally braced, the bond feels that. Even if he says the right words, the atmosphere still carries instability. The woman may hear the sentence, but her body is also reading the state behind the sentence. This is why many men are confused in relationships. They think the issue is only communication. Often, the deeper issue is regulation. In neurobiological security, Dan Siegel's framework offers the phrase, "Name it to tame it." Stoic-Apex translation. If you cannot identify what is happening inside you, you are much more likely to let it spill into the bond. That matters because a man who cannot name his own overwhelm often turns it into tone, distance, irritation, or withdrawal. He may think he is just stressed, but the relationship pays a higher price, which is emotional unpredictability. A grounded man learns to read his own state earlier. He notices, I am flooded. I am defensive. I am tightening. I am speeding up. I am taking this personally. I am losing clarity. That awareness is not weakness. It is leadership. Because once a man can name what is happening, he has a better chance of governing it before it damages the bond. The nervous system is always speaking. The question is whether it is speaking safety or strain. Safety makes love deeper. Love grows deeper when the bond feels safe enough to rest in. Not boring. Not passive. Not flat. Safe. This is a hard truth for some men, who confuse emotional safety with softness. They assume that safety reduces attraction, lowers tension, or makes the relationship too comfortable to survive. But in pair bonding, safety often makes love deeper because it lets both people stop wasting so much energy on self-protection. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she can soften more fully. She can trust more fully. She can bond more deeply. She can receive more cleanly. And she can often desire more freely because her nervous system is not busy scanning for instability. In Neurobiological Security, Stan Tatkin teaches, good for you and for your partner. Stoic-Apex translation. Secure love protects both people. It does not create closeness by sacrificing one nervous system to preserve the comfort of the other. That is mature, masculine love. Not, I get my way. Not, I protect myself only. Not, I avoid discomfort at your expense. But what protects the bond, the trust, and the emotional stability of both of us? That orientation changes everything. It makes a man slower to lash out. Slower to threaten. Slower to disappear. Slower to use mood as power. And that is part of what makes love deepen. Safety is not only about being nice. It is about being trustworthy to the nervous system. A man becomes more bondable when his presence feels cleaner over time, not more costly. Do not punish the bond. Many men punish the very relationship they say they want to protect. They punish it through coldness. Through the shutdown. Through delayed replies meant to sting. Through distance meant to teach a lesson. Through harsh tone. Through subtle contempt. Through emotional withdrawal, which says, you will feel what I felt. That destroys pair bonding. Because punishment may create fear, but fear does not create secure love. A man who keeps weaponizing distance teaches the relationship that closeness is dangerous. Over time, the bond becomes more fragile, more defensive, and less willing to open. In Toltec Integrity, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, don't take anything personally. Stoic-Apex translation. The more you turn every pain, disappointment, and friction point into an ego wound, the more likely you are to retaliate against the bond instead of protecting it. That is where many relationships get damaged. A man feels hurt. Instead of naming the hurt cleanly, he punishes. He becomes colder. Harder. More sarcastic. Less available. Less generous. Less safe. Now the relationship is not being led. It is being penalized. A grounded man does something else. He names what is wrong. He sets the boundary. He addresses the pattern. He slows down before speaking. He protects the bond from his own urge to retaliate. That is masculine control. The goal is not to pretend that hurt does not exist. The goal is to refuse to weaponize hurt in ways that erode trust. If you want pair bonding, stop punishing the bond whenever pain arises. Repair matters more than image. Strong couples do not stay strong because they never rupture. They stay strong because they repair. This is one of the most important truths in all of attachment work. Conflict will happen. Misattunement will happen. Bad will happen. Missed moments will happen. The issue is not perfection. The issue is what happens next. Too many men care more about image than repair. They want to stay right. Stay proud. Stay defended. Stay unrevealed. But that instinct often costs the bond more than the original mistake. In Neurobiological Security, John Gottman teaches, complain without blame. Stoic-Apex translation. Repair gets stronger when the issue is addressed cleanly without turning the other person into the problem. That principle matters beyond complaint. It shapes the whole repair process. A mature man can say, my tone was off. I shut down. I made that heavier than it needed to be. I did not protect the bond well there. Let me correct it. That does not weaken his frame. It strengthens trust. Real pair bonding is not built by pretending to be invulnerable. It is built by becoming accountable without collapsing. Repair is one of the deepest masculine functions in love. Not because the man becomes submissive. Because he becomes responsible. And responsibility is attractive. It is safe. It is an adult. It gives the relationship somewhere stable to stand after a hard moment. That is why repair matters more than image. Image protects ego. Repair protects the bond. So far, masculine attachment and pair bonding has established 4 more foundations. First, your nervous system is part of the relationship. Second, safety makes love deeper. Third, punishing the bond destroys trust. Fourth, repair matters more than image management. Become a safe base without losing masculine shape. One of the greatest misunderstandings men have about attachment is the belief that becoming emotionally safe means becoming soft, passive, or stripped of masculine edge. It does not. A woman does not need a man who disappears into emotional distance, nor one who melts into approval-seeking closeness. She needs a man whose presence helps the bond feel more secure. Becoming soft, passive, or stripped of masculine edge while still carrying direction, standards, and grounded masculine weight. That is what it means to become a safe base. Not a caretaker. Not a pleaser. Not a shapeless comfort object. A safe base is a man who can be emotionally present without becoming emotionally unstable. And emotionally available without becoming emotionally dependent. In Neurobiology and Attachment, Sue Johnson's framework emphasizes accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement. Stoic-Apex translation. Pair bonding deepens when your partner can feel that you are reachable, responsive, and genuinely present instead of distant, delayed, or emotionally hidden. A safe man is not a less masculine man. He is a more regulated man. He can stay in the room. He can hear pain without collapsing. That does not weaken masculinity. It matures it. He can respond without overreacting. He can remain available without losing structure. That is rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. A woman can often relax more deeply with a man who is both grounded and emotionally safe than with a man who only knows how to project hardness. The goal is not softness without a frame. It is safe with shape. That is pair bonding in masculine form. Mutuality is mature love. A strong bond cannot be built on one nervous system carrying 2 people. That is not love. That is an imbalance. Mutuality means both people matter. Both nervous systems matter. Both voices matter. Both sets of needs matter. Both people are responsible for protecting the bond. This is one of the clearest signs of maturity in love. The man stops thinking only in terms of his own comfort, his own emotional timing, his own wounds, and his own agenda. He begins thinking in terms of the relationship as a shared field that must be protected by both people. That is why secure love is never fully selfish. In spiritual humility, recovery wisdom says, selfishness, self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Stoic-Apex translation. When the ego becomes the center of the bond, attachment weakens because the relationship keeps getting bent around one person's fear, pride, or emotional reactivity. Mutuality corrects that. It says, not only what do I feel, but what does this do to us? Not only what do I want, but what protects the bond? Not only how do I defend myself, but how do I stay fair, clean, and relationally responsible? That is mature love. Not losing yourself. Not surrendering standards. Not becoming passive. But learning to love in a way that protects both people instead of quietly centering only yourself. Men who cannot learn mutuality often keep injuring attachment while still claiming loyalty. Men who do learn it become safer to bond with, safer to trust, and harder to disconnect from. Because mutuality makes love feel less dangerous. Anxious pressure damages pair bonding. Anxious attachment often mistakes urgency for love. It says, fix this now. Reassure me now. Answer me now. Resolve this now. Calm me now. That pressure may come from pain, but it still creates pressure. And pair bonding weakens when one person keeps trying to force relief through emotional demand. This is especially important for men to understand, because anxious pressure can hide under language that sounds loving, caring, or relational. But underneath it, fear is often trying to control the pace of the bond. In Toltec wisdom, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, "Find the courage to ask questions." Stoic-Apex translation. If you need clarity, ask directly and cleanly instead of flooding the relationship with nervous pressure. That one distinction makes a big difference. A grounded man can ask, "Are we okay? Can we talk about this? What happened there? What do you need from me? What is true here?" But he asks from structure, not panic. The anxious man does not only ask for the truth. He asks for emotional rescue. That is where bonding starts taking damage. The relationship begins to feel less like a place of connection and more like a place where one person must constantly neutralize the other's fear. That is too much weight for desire. Too much weight for trust. Too much weight for peace. Clean questions strengthen the bond. Pressured questions burden the bond. So the masculine correction is not silence. It is courageous clarity without contamination by urgency. Avoidant detachment is not real strength. Many men secretly admire emotional distance because it looks strong from the outside. It looks composed, unaffected, controlled, untouchable. But a man who disappears every time intimacy, pressure, or emotional complexity rises is not necessarily strong. Avoidant detachment is often praised because it does not look needy. But lack of need is not the same as secure power. A man can appear calm while actually being unreachable, unbonded, and emotionally unavailable under stress. That is not mastery. That is distance. In Stoic discipline, Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Stoic-Apex translation. If your peace depends on escaping closeness, shutting down vulnerability, or withdrawing from attachment responsibility, that is not freedom. That is another form of control by fear. Real masculine strength can remain present. It can feel uncomfortable without fleeing. It can hear emotion without going cold. It can stay responsible for the bond without becoming engulfed. That is harder than withdrawal. And more mature. The avoidant man often believes he is preserving power by staying detached. In reality, he may be starving the bond of warmth, contact, and trust while calling it self-protection. Secure masculinity is different. It does not chase. But it does not vanish. It does not collapse. But it does not harden into absence. It does not surrender the self. But it does not abandon the bond either. That is a real strength in attachment. So far in masculine attachment and pair bonding has established 4 more foundations. First, a man can become a safe base without losing masculine shape. Second, mutuality is mature love. Third, anxious pressure damages pair bonding. Fourth, avoidant detachment is not a real strength. Secure functioning is built, not assumed. A strong bond does not stay strong because 2 people happen to love each other. It stays strong because they keep building the structure that protects the bond over time. That is one of the great mistakes men make in relationships. They assume love should carry everything on its own. They assume chemistry should be enough. They assume loyalty should automatically produce safety. But secure functioning is not automatic. It is built through repeated behaviors, consistent protection, and relational discipline. In neurobiology and attachment, Stan Tatkin teaches, your partner is first to know, not second, third, or fourth. Stoic-Apex translation. Pair bonding strengthens when the relationship is treated as primary, not as an afterthought behind mood, distraction, ego, or outside priorities. That principle matters because attachment weakens when the woman feels secondary, emotionally late, or relationally peripheral. She may still stay, but the bond begins to lose depth because the nervous system no longer feels chosen securely. Secure functioning is built when a man repeatedly shows, you matter, the bond matters, your safety matters, our repair matters, our connection matters. That is not obscure. That is structure. A man who protects primary loyalty over time becomes far more bondable than the man who only says the right words in isolated moments. Rituals carry the bond when emotion fluctuates. Feelings rise and fall. Stress rises and falls. Desire rises and falls. Energy rises and falls. That is why strong relationships need rituals. Not only intentions. Rituals help sustain the bond through seasons when emotions are lower, life is heavier, and closeness requires more intentional structure. Small repeated behaviors become stabilizers. They keep love from becoming purely reactive. In neurobiology and attachment, John Gottman's framework gives us the 6-second kiss. Stoic-Apex translation. Pair bonding gets stronger when the connection is made behavioral, embodied, and repeated instead of left to chance. That is why rituals matter so much. Touch matters. Greeting matters. Goodbye matters. Repair rituals matter. Shared pauses matter. Reconnection moments matter. A relationship becomes more durable when the bond is nourished in small, repeated ways rather than neglected until something breaks. This is also masculine leadership. A grounded man does not leave connection entirely to mood. He helps establish rhythms that protect the bond when life gets noisy. That is not mechanical. It is wise. Because repeated connection creates security, and security makes depth easier to sustain. Bond deeply without losing yourself. Many men fear attachment because they assume bonding deeply means losing masculine identity. It does not. The danger is not bonding. The danger is self-erasure. A man weakens the bond when he becomes detached, cold, or unreachable. But he also weakens it when he becomes shapeless, approval-driven, and overly fused. The mature path is different. Bond deeply. Stay present. Stay loving. Stay engaged. But keep your center. In Toltec wisdom, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, always do your best. Stoic-Apex translation. Mature love does not require perfection. It requires a man to keep showing up cleanly, honestly, and with the best structure he can bring in that season. That matters because pair bonding is not about performing flawless masculinity. It is about bringing your best regulation, honesty, steadiness, and responsibility to the bond without abandoning your own identity in the process. A man can love deeply and still keep standards. He can bond deeply and still keep shape. He can remain emotionally available and still remain masculine. That is the mature integration. Final standard, pair bonding without self-abandonment. This is the closing standard for masculine leadership. Do not confuse withdrawal with strength. Do not confuse fusion with love. Do not confuse pressure with care. Do not confuse self-erasure with devotion. Secure masculine attachment is something far cleaner. It is the ability to bond deeply without becoming dependent. To stay present without becoming engulfed. To protect the relationship without becoming controlling. To remain emotionally available without losing frame. In spiritual humility, recovery wisdom says, acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. Stoic-Apex translation. Pair bonding becomes stronger when a man stops fighting reality long enough to lead it cleanly. That means accepting. Conflict will happen. Repair will be needed. Attachment wounds exist. Growth takes time, love needs structure, and security must be built again and again. The mature man does not resent that truth. He works with it. That is Stoic-Apex pair bonding. Not perfect. Not fragile. Not performative. Grounded. Regulated. Truthful. Protective. Masculine. So here is a question. Are you trying to create attachment through pressure, avoidance, and control? Or are you building a bond through structure, repair, safety, and grounded masculine presence? Build until the answer changes to yes. If this episode gave language to something you have felt but never fully named, subscribe, stay with Stoic-Apex, and comment, bond deeply. Keep your center. Stoic-Apex.